You were a former big-time CEO. One of the comments that I hear, not just here, in the interviews that I hear when I turn on CNBC or the Today Show, and they've got the CEOs of a lot of these companies, the workers are saying the CEO makes this percentage more than the average worker, and that ratio has gotten bigger over the last decade or so. Is that a fair argument? As a former CEO, do you really care what your average worker was making?
No, absolutely. Everybody cares what the average worker is making. But the question is, how valuable is your CEO? Think about it like as a general manager or a manager of a baseball team. Was Billy Martin, who any team Billy Martin went with, all of a sudden they started to win. It didn't make it. They could be in last place. By the time he was done, they'd be in first or second place. He was a very valuable manager. You would pay a lot to have a manager like that. You would pay a lot to have somebody that knows how to make a business succeed. Having somebody work on an assembly line or work at a cook station in a restaurant, those are jobs those are wonderful jobs. People have a lot of responsibility, but they're a different skill than making an entire enterprise successful. And boards of directors try and find the CEOs that will make their company the most successful, and they compensate them on the basis of what the competition's making, because if somebody is successful at something, another company will try and lure you away to be, to help them.
So if you were the CEO of like Ford or GM or something, and you were on CNBC and they said, Andy Puzder, your salary is exponentially bigger than do you think they deserve to close that ratio? What would you have said?
I would have said I'm paid what the board of directors and who are elected by the shareholders believe I'm worth. And if they don't think I'm worth it, then they shouldn't renew my contract.
But do you?
Wouldn't
then the next question be fine? That's what you're worth. But shouldn't you then? Don't you think your employees are worth X percentage more?
I think my employees are worth a lot, and we want to compensate them to the maximum amount we can, and still be profitable, still generate a return for our investors, and to keep them happy because they're important to the business success. But what the CEO of a company makes, whether it's my company or a different company, is not. You can't judge the salary of the employees based upon the salary of the CEO. Right. They're very, very different positions, and they don't need to line up. If you have a bad CEO, he shouldn't make very much money, and he should be terminated. You should lose your job quickly. That's the basis on which you judge a CEO, and it's a basis on which you judge employees. They should be paid commensurate with what they provide, the benefit they provide to the enterprise, and they shouldn't be paid more than the benefit they provide to the enterprise.
All right, so let me go down that. Let me keep.
And by the way, a lot of the compensation that they include when they talk about CEOs is stock grants.
Right.
The CEOs get granted stock, so they have an incentive to try and increase the value of the stock. So it's not always salary,
right?
We're talking about. So there's a world of difference between CEO compensation and the compensation of employees.
All right. So what about profitability? Because one of the points that President Biden keeps saying is, well, these companies are profitable and therefore they should share it with the employees. I look at that and say, if I'm a stockholder, no. I'm the investor. I want to get paid out as well. Where's that line between, does he have a point, do you think, when he says the employees should be the first to share in this?
I think the employees should get a share of the success of the company, but your ultimate obligation is to your shareholders.
Yeah.
It's the people that invested in your business. And businesses that are profitable, when your business is profitable, people want to invest. The more profit they think there is, the more they will invest. And that investment is what drives job creation and economic growth. So if you start diminishing the value of your company, if you start diminishing the value of companies in general, you attack the profit motive, which has been the generator of the greatest wealth creator actually in history, the profit motive in the free market system, and has lifted billions of people out of poverty. And that's pretty much a direct quote from Barack Obama in 2015, speaking at Georgetown University, where he said, the free market is the greatest creator of wealth in history and has lifted billions of people out of poverty. When you attack the profit motive, you attack that profit-driven system that has really turned around humankind over the past 200 years.
Yeah.
We had 94% of the world living in poverty before capitalism. Today, that number is under 10%. and it should be lower, and we can get it lower.
Yeah.
But we can't get it lower by ignoring what got us here, and that was the profit motive and free market capitalism.
Let me ask you to keep your CEO hat on for a second. This week, Chuck Schumer scrapped the dress code of the United States Senate for the first time in 100 plus years so that John Fetterman could look like he just rolled out of the gym. What message does that send when the majority leader of the Senate caves to the lowest common denominator and says, yes, you can walk on the Senate floor now with a hoodie, gym shorts, and sneakers?
Well, the one thing that always separated the Senate, I think, from the House or from any other branch of government was the dignity of the institution.
Right.
I think people respected the Senate because it was a group, it was 100 of the very experienced and intelligent people who went through a political process to get where they got and were successful. This really demeans the institution. And it's unfortunate that this is happening. I can't believe that he would dress like that to go to a dinner,
just when I say
let alone to go meet in the Senate.
But when I say put your CEO hat back on, I'm being serious. I mean, you ran these huge restaurant chains. And I would think to myself, if I'm, manager so-and-so, I go, why am I wearing this silly polyester uniform when I'm watching if this guy, Fetterman, can wear whatever the heck he wants, why can't I? And so I'm going to tell my manager, who I want to tell CEO Andy, that I don't want to wear this stuff anymore. And the dress code's silly. And look at what's happening. Do you think that there's actually a ripple effect? Because I do.
Well, there certainly would be if it happened in a corporate headquarters where you had a certain dress code for customer service purposes. If the top officials of the company started dressing like they just finished their workout rather than in an inappropriate business manner, I think it would have a ripple effect through the institution, and it would be bad for employee morale. And employee morale is very important to the success of any business.
I just see a lot of people going, well, if a senator can do it, why can't I? Why do I have to wear something nice here at CKE headquarters when this Fetterman guy can look like a bum? But I want you to weigh in on one other thing, too, that I sort of am intrigued as someone of your stature. There's a movement now post-COVID to get a lot of companies are saying we all need to get back in the office 5 days a week or whatever, 4 days a week. I have mixed feelings on this. I heard Kevin O'Leary, who's on Shark Tank, say, hey, look, get the best employee and figure out what works for them. I've heard a bunch of other people saying, hey, the job is here. You show up. There's mentorship. There's accountability of being in the office. Michael Bloomberg has been talking about that. Where do you come down on that sort of, where should employees be forced to be back in the office? Should there be some flexibility?
No, I think employees should be back. If I were running a company now, I would have employees coming back into the office. First of all, I think the employees that you would lose if you said the employees have to come back to the office, the ones who would leave are the ones you probably ought to get rid of anyway. They're ones that really aren't dedicated to the business and aren't trying to move forward within the company. You lose a lot when you're not in the office. I think some of the best meetings, the most successful meetings, the meetings that really drove the company forward when I ran it at CKE, when I ran it for 17 years, were when 3 or 4 of us just happened to end up in the same office, maybe with our feet up on the other guy's desk, and started talking through issues, really from your gut. Really that I think people think about it as as drinking fountain talk or coffee break talk, but it's really much more than that. If you sit down with a group of people and you go through what you're thinking about the business, and you can get a lot done, and you're not going to get that sitting home on a Zoom call. I'm sorry, it's just not the same.